The argument began just after 9, when the line at Register 4 had grown restless. A cart of groceries stood half unpacked, the air thick with impatience and fluorescent light. Lila Hart scanned one item at a time, her motion steady, her smile thin but polite. Across the counter, an elderly man searched trembling hands through his worn coat, pulling out a handful of coins that clattered like rain. "Sir, take your time," Lila murmured, though she could already feel Rick's presence, her manager's cologne, sharp as cleaning solvent, cutting through the air behind her. Rick Dawson stepped forward, his voice rising before the man could answer. "Come on, let's move it, folks have places to be. You holding up the whole store, old-timer." A quiet ripple moved through the line, nervous laughter, the kind that wants to disappear. Lila felt it twist inside her. She glanced at the old man's face, pale, confused, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. He tried to count the coins again, but one rolled onto the floor. No one bent to pick it up. Lila did. "Sir, it's fine," she said, setting the coin gently on the counter. "You're all set, okay? Don't worry about the rest." Rick's voice snapped behind her. "What are you doing? That's not store policy." Lila's throat tightened. She turned slowly, her apron edges brushing the counter. "He's short by a few cents. I'll cover it." Rick laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "With what?" "Your hero paycheck." The customers looked away again. One woman pushed her cart forward, pretending not to listen. Lila felt the heat in her chest, part shame, part anger, but she didn't speak. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a few coins of her own, and placed them in the register. "There," she said softly. Rick leaned closer, his grin sharp. "You think that makes you better than the rules? This isn't charity work, Lila. You're paid to scan, not to save souls." The old man's eyes flickered toward her, a brief, grateful look that said more than any apology. He gathered his small paper bag and shuffled toward the exit. No one else moved. Lila stood frozen for a moment, watching him go. The store hummed with its usual noise, the beep of scanners, the rustle of bags, but something inside her had gone completely still. She'd spent years teaching herself to stay quiet. After her mother's stroke, after the college bills she couldn't pay, after every night shift where she'd been told to smile no matter what was said to her. She had always chosen silence, it was safer that way. But tonight, it felt like she'd swallowed glass. When her shift ended, she walked home through cold rain. Her shoes soaked through, the smell of detergent still clinging to her hands. She thought about how easily Rick's laughter had filled that space, how nobody had spoken. Maybe they were afraid too. Or maybe they just didn't care. At her apartment, she set down her bag and pulled the crumpled receipt from her pocket, the old man's, which she'd accidentally kept. The total, $7.83. Nothing remarkable. Yet the small act felt heavier than the long shifts and empty compliments combined. She sat by the window, lights from passing cars tracing across her face. Somewhere, her phone buzzed with another work message about schedules. She ignored it. For the first time in years, she wondered if silence had cost her more than she realized. By morning, she decided she'd go and early apologize, maybe try to keep the job she couldn't afford to lose. But when she arrived, 2 unfamiliar men in dark suits were already waiting by the customer service desk, holding a folder with her name on it. And everyone, Rick included, was suddenly very quiet. When Lila stepped into the store that morning, the air felt wrong, too still, too clean. The coffee machine hadn't yet started its slow hiss, and even the radios behind the counters were silent. Rick stood near the service desk with his arms crossed, jaw tight. Beside him, 2 men in tailored suits waited, their briefcases resting neatly by their shoes. "Lila Hart?" one of them asked. His tone was professional, calm. "Could we have a word?" Rick cut in before she could speak. "If this is about the register thing, I've already handled it. She'll get a warning, maybe suspension." He sounded proud, like the decision was final. The taller lawyer looked at him once, brief, cold, and then turned back to Lila. "We're here on behalf of Mr. Arthur Bell." It took her a moment to place the name. The old man. The one with the trembling hands and the quiet eyes. He asked us to find you, the lawyer continued. He recorded what happened yesterday. We reviewed the footage. He wanted to make sure the right person was acknowledged. Rick's smirk faltered. Acknowledged? The lawyer opened his folder. Inside was a printed photo, Lila, bending to pick up a coin from the floor, her face half-lit by the register glow. Mr. Bell is one of the store's original investors, the lawyer said evenly. He's asked to establish a fund for employee advancement, starting with you. Effective immediately, you've been offered a position at our head office in accounts management, with full sponsorship for business certification. The store went silent. Even the hum of refrigerators seemed to pause. Lila's throat went dry. I don't understand. He said you will, the lawyer replied gently. He remembered you mentioned your mother. There's also a note for you. He handed her a folded envelope. Inside was a single sentence, written in an unsteady but elegant hand. People who defend dignity deserve to stand tall. For a second, the world blurred. Lila blinked hard, forcing back tears. Rick's voice broke the quiet, rough now uncertain. This is ridiculous. She broke policy. The shorter lawyer closed his folder. Your manager's behavior is under review. Mr. Bell's footage has been sent to the board. Rick's face drained of color. Someone from the bakery department whispered, she really did it. Another cashier clapped once softly. It wasn't applause, more like a signal that everyone had just witnessed something shift. Lila stood still, trying to absorb it all. For years she'd believed that the only way to survive was to shrink, to blend into the background until the noise passed. And now, for the first time, silence was working for her because truth didn't need her to shout. The lawyers thanked her for her time and left. Rick retreated to his office without another word. When the automatic doors slid open again, daylight spilled across the tiled floor, cutting through the dull artificial glow. Lila stepped into it slowly, feeling its warmth on her face. By noon, word had spread through the town. Customers came in asking which cashier had stood up for the old man. Some just smiled at her, others nodded quietly. The cameras had caught everything, but what mattered most wasn't what people saw, it was what they remembered. That evening, she sat by the same window as the night before. Outside, the city lights flickered against soft rain. Her mother called, voice weak but warm, and Lila told her everything in a few steady sentences. There was no grand speech, no triumphant music, just the quiet steadiness of a heart no longer bowed. When she hung up, she set the note from Mr. Bell beside the crumpled receipt she'd kept. Both fluttered in the breeze from the open window, lit faintly by the red neon sign from the store across the street. Two small pieces of paper, proof that kindness, once dismissed as weakness, had turned the world on its axis for a moment. Lila smiled, faint but certain. For the first time, the silence felt like peace.